Well, hello. Today's the 1956 movie Around the World in 80 Days. 1872, Phileas Fogg makes a bet for £20,000 he can go around the world in 80 days. He sets out with his new valet, Passepartout. The first problem is a collapsed railroad tunnel, so he buys a balloon to continue on. They land in Spain, and Passepartout must be a bullfighter to get the use of a rich sheikh's boat. In Suez, Fogg picks up a Scotland Yard police detective on his trail who thinks Fogg robbed the Bank of England. In India, Fogg rescues an Indian princess about to be forced on a funeral pyre of her late husband. In Hong Kong, Passepartout is drugged by the police inspector and ends up being put on the passenger ship to Yokohama alone. Fogg manages to hire a junk and make it to Yokohama in time to find Passepartout and catch the clipper to San Francisco. From there, they take the train to New York and must fight off an Indian attack. They rescue Passepartout and make it to New York, but must hire a freighter for the trip across the Atlantic. Fogg buys the freighter and tears it apart for fuel to make it to England in time. Only he gets arrested when he lands in England for the bank robbery. He does get released, but thinks he's lost a bet because of the arrest. Only to discover that he crossed the international date line and still has time to make it. So this movie is, of course, based on the novel by Jules Verne. It starred David Niven and Kenta Flowers and Shirley MacLaine, and directed by Michael Anderson, who's best known to me anyway as one directed Logan's Run. And it was first movie produced by Michael Todd. I guess he was like an interesting guy who produced like plays and that, and made this cinematography gram or whatever. And he this was his first movie, and it was rejected by the studios. So he actually got it made by finding individual investors. And it was an expensive movie at the time, $6 million, but it made a huge money of $42 million. And a lot of that, it was just a huge success. He decided to hire Kenta Flowers. I can't know. I don't know if I pronounced his name. He was considered like the Mexican Charlie Chaplin. And while American audiences didn't know him, he was probably one of the most successful actors, richest actors at the time. He made just a ton of money in Latin America and Spain and that. And he was kind of he had a lot of physical comedy. He was a bullfighter, an acrobat, and this movie definitely showcases that. And it probably also helped really to boost the sales in South America and that, to help the money come in. And he also came up with the cameo, which this movie is just chock full of them. There's some ones I recognize like Peter Lorre, Frank Sinatra, Marlene Dietrich, John Carradine. There's a lot of others. Some I kind of heard about or maybe have seen in old movies. A lot of them are probably not as familiar with today as it would have been in the 50s. And but that was a big thing. And this is his first movie, and he made, but it was a real huge success. Financially, And it also critically, it got 8 Oscar nominations, and he won 5 of them, including the Best Picture and Screenwriter actor of the Oscars. And it's a long movie. It's like 175 minutes long, so it's like over 3 hours. And it's kind of a slow-paced movie, so I don't know if there's a lot of modern audiences that would care for this. Kind of like a travel log, but it's very beautifully shot. It went all over the world, Britain, France, Spain, India, Thailand, Japan, and of course the United States. And I think it's also very faithful to the original novel. I know as a little kid I used to read these kind of novelizations, abridged ones with illustrations. And I did read this, and it does kind of, I believe, from what I vaguely remember, it does follow the book pretty closely. Now Michael Todd, was a big success. He married Elizabeth Taylor, and he planned to do another movie called Don Quixote. But unfortunately, he had died in a plane crash, so we'll never get to know if he was, a success or this was just a fluke of his. And, interesting enough, also the studio that rejected this movie tried to, copy it they hired Cantafleos again to star in it and had a lot of cameos. It was called Pepe, but it was like over 3 hours long, and I guess it was really bad, and it really just flopped because the studio guy didn't understand how to make movies, and just the crude copying didn't work. So yeah, it's an enjoyable movie. It's it's slow paced. I gotta admit that, and it's long, so it's probably not gonna appeal to everybody. It kind of appealed to me, but I like that kind of stuff. So use your judgment if you want to check it out or not. And if you stuck with me this long, I thank you. You're a unique individual.